Hey Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 390. Hey Who fans, welcome back to another episode of the Big Blue Box. Thank you very much for joining us for 390. We hope you've had a cracking week and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who
related.
I said relatable.
You did? I thought I was imagining things.
Yeah. Went off script.
Did he say... Gone rogue.
I've got a teleprompter. I've got a big screen in front of me like they have on the news, but I decided to go rogue.
Yeah.
That's what I did. That was a lie. Didn't mean that. We do not have teleprompters at all. Not round here.
It would be good, actually.
Oh, I don't know, mate. I think that would cause more problems than it's worth. You know?
Yeah, because we'd be trying to concentrate on it, wouldn't we? We'd be trying to read it, and we'd be like reading a script. A friend of mine who does a podcast, asked if we scripted our shows, and I was like, no. So we just go and waffle for a couple of hours, and he's like, you don't script it. No, he was horrified. I was like, no script here.
Exactly.
We're off the cuff. We're raw.
Yep. I know a couple of people who do use them, a couple of content creators on YouTube that will use them. But it said it took them, two extremes, I guess. But one of my friends said they took to it like a duck to water, just, wrote their script out, tweaked it a bit, and then recorded it all good. My other friend was like, just couldn't do it for ages. It took him a good few days to get the hang of it. So I guess, I don't know. But I don't know. I think we just have to pause the recording like every 5 minutes. It'd be like, sorry, I missed a word there or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think I'd cope with that.
Yes. So no prompters around here. So, yes, 390 is upon us. We've got our review of The Invasion of Time coming up. Normally, we would go through all of the Doctor Who news that's been out there in the in whatever sources, really, on the interwebs, on the socials, in the papers, whatever. But there is none. Adam and I have scoured. We've had a little look, and it's definitely quiet out there for Doctor Who. So, so no news to go through this week, which you'll all be pleased to hear. No waffle from us. No chatting anything ridiculous. So no news. But buddy, have you done anything Who related this week?
No, because we're reviewing another whopping 6-parter this week. I haven't really had to do anything else Who related. I am, however, eagerly awaiting my crumpled copy of this week's Doctor Who magazine, because it's the 600th issue this week. And I don't know, did you see the video that they posted?
Yeah.
The other day? The awesome video where they've gone onto the set of the TARDIS and they've spread every single issue, all 600 issues of the magazine, around the TARDIS console to take the cover photo.
That's cool.
It looks incredible from the picture I've seen. I assumed they just that was just a generated image, like they'd sort of not CGI'd it. What's the word? Like it was a photoshopped image, that they hadn't really gone to the set and spread all those issues everywhere, because there's one issue inside the rotor. They're just all over the floor. They're all up the ramps. It's a really cool idea. But no, if you go on Twitter or whatever, you can see a little sped up video of them putting all the magazines around the floor and on the console, and yeah, it's cool. So I'm eagerly waiting for that to be folded in half and crumpled through the letterbox so I can read that.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at, as we record, mate, I'm looking out the window waiting for the old postie to arrive with it.
Yeah, do you know what, dude? Doctor Who magazine, right? You've got to say, for whoever's managing that magazine, and it's obviously more than one person who's done that over the years, but the people that have managed that, that's quite an achievement to have that still going, because there's been quite a few magazines that I've subscribed to over the years, and one by one they've just stopped print because, unfortunately, just the way of people being more online these days and technology and stuff. The art of the printed magazine is, although you might see loads of them still if you go into a WH Smith or any sort of bookshop or newsagents, you might still see loads of magazines, but there's nowhere near like the amount that when you and I were sort of going through our teens and early adult life and all these very cool magazines. They've just sort of fallen off a cliff, really. So more than anything, the management behind Doctor Who magazine has got to be applauded, because it's a tough business. It must be so difficult, because they have, Doctor Who magazine is not self-published, right? They rely on a company to do all that stuff for them, which I think is it Panini still? Might be Panini.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So
Panini, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. So those guys have got to justify to the bigwigs at Panini why they should still, put some money into printing and distributing this magazine. So, of course, the subscribers to Doctor Who, like yourself and everyone else that picks it up, is obviously important. But it would be so easy, just for, because I'm no expert in this field, obviously, but I'm guessing that over the years there's been a little bit of pressure and some decisions made about which magazines to axe and which to carry on and all that stuff. So I'm wondering if, because as we know from Doctor Who, the show itself, back in the day, it was very easy for the axe to fall and not many people to stand up for it and go to bat for the show, and all too easy to just say, yeah, go on in, this dude at the BBC doesn't like it, we want to get rid of it, let's just get rid of it. So yeah, a massive achievement to the dudes that run Doctor Who magazine. It's still going. It's just unbelievable, really.
I'm glad it's still going, really. I mean, that's the thing. I know the price has gone up and people say, it's ridiculous price for a magazine. I do get that. But like you said, if I would hate to see it go. I'd hate to see it go to digital only, because it's been a part of my life for years, mate. I can remember, I've subscribed for it ever since I can remember. I remember my nan used to get it delivered from her local newsagents, and I'd go and pick it up from my nan. So I can't remember why she had to get it for me. I'm sure there was a reason. But yeah, I've just always got Doctor Who magazine. It's like, I love waiting for it to drop through the letterbox, and even though I get annoyed that it's often battered and crumpled and I could have got a pristine one from the shop, I still look forward to it coming. And actually, I believe subscribers are going to get a print of the cover as a sort of a thank you for subscribing all these years. I believe something like that. There's going to be some little extra in with the subscriber copy, so I'm hoping it arrives too unscathed, too undented.
Yeah, the crumpled mess that you normally get from Mr. Disgruntled Postman. Yeah, that's cool.
Depends which one it is. Don't forget, I've got one nice postman and one not so nice, so it depends. Yeah, it's like Russian roulette. Which one will I get this week?
Yeah, true. It's a funny thing, the old magazines, because it's the only it's partially the only medium that I won't go to digital on. It's like everything else, music, quite a few movies and Big Finish and all that stuff is pretty much digital. And even though I've got anyone that's seen us record this on video or seen pictures, whatever, I've got a fairly healthy bookcase, with many books on and stuff. I still have the odd book on Kindle, I must admit. If it, if it's something that, if it's a Doctor Who book or a Star Wars book, then I'll typically get that in, physical form. But any other book, like I'm reading this book at the minute, it's Uncanny by Danny Robbins, and that's the type of book that I'll just get on Kindle.
Yeah, I get it.
But for magazines, dude, no, I never get the digital version of those. I always want to pick up the physical. There's just something about a magazine in your hand. I just love that.
Yeah, and also talking about the books, mate, have you got the new Target books of the 3 specials? Because those just arrived recently on my doorstep, and again, it's the covers are so beautiful. Like I wouldn't mind them on Kindle, but obviously to have the actual thing in your hand, it's so, there's something so magical about those little Target books. And 2 days ago, I got the Ruby Road book, the Church on Ruby Road. Novel, which it's got a gorgeous cover to it. So it's actually a little hardback, a tiny little hardback book of it. I put them together yesterday. It was like 3 specials in the Church on Ruby Road book. Just put them together on my shelf, and like you said, there's something you get like a real buzz from just. I was just like, oh, they look so gorgeous on the shelf together. There's something about physical products that you can't get that buzz from a Kindle. Not when it comes to Doctor Who stuff, I don't think.
No, I don't think. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I think it's just franchise snobbishness, I think. Like if it's, like I said, if it's Star Wars or Doctor Who, Lord of the Rings, that sort of thing, and I'm all over it physical. And it's just bragging rights more than anything. It's just an ego thing for a lot of people, me included. I put my hands up to that. So if anyone comes over, and I never like to initiate the showing off. I never do that. It's normally my wife. My wife is normally like, oh, Gary works from home. He's got a really cool office with all his geeky stuff in there and stuff. Go and let him have a look.
Yeah.
I'm like, right this way. Come through. And then I, come through to the bookcase at the back of the office, and it's like, as you can see, all of the physical books, as you can see, all good. So it gives you like a little bit of a, when you get the little nod. Normally, if we've got some friends who are couples and they come over for the first time, it's normally the one of the halves is like rolling their eyes. It's like, oh yeah, and the other one's like, I so want this, but he won't let me, or they won't let me. It's just like, I've got a plan for that.
I remember spying a Star Wars land speeder behind you when we were recording once, going, oh, where'd you get that? I want that.
Exactly, mate. Yeah, that's the thing. Then it sparks the train, and then sort of that couple goes home, and he's like, oh God, see Gary's office, what a show off. And then, I don't know, I wouldn't mind a bit of that. And then that's the conversation started, and it's off. There we go. Mission accomplished. Spreading the geek love, yeah?
Oh, definitely, mate. I mean, I wake up every morning, and to the left of me is my little unit, which is just full of like figures and books and CDs. And it's just a comfort thing. I love waking up, and that's kind of like the first thing I see. But I'm sure my other half absolutely hates it being in the bedroom, like completely cluttering up the bedroom. Much rather have a sort of a clinical white room with one little table
and very minimalist.
And a lamp.
Yep.
Yeah, minimalist. But instead, we've got sonic screwdrivers. I'm looking to have a look now. We've got sonic screwdrivers, Daleks, books, CDs, all on the little display unit. Yeah, that's what we want.
That's what you want.
I'd have roundels on the wall if I could.
I'm sure there was a few years ago. You might be able to still get this, I'm not sure, but a few years ago I'm certain you could buy Doctor Who wallpaper that was the roundels. Am I imagining that?
Yes, no, you're not. No, you could.
You could, couldn't you?
Yeah, God, amazing. Yeah, where was that from? I do remember that. I think it was official as well, because I was about to say, was it like on Redbubble or something, but no, I think it was official.
Yeah,
I think.
I'm sure it
anyway,
was.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah.
Wow.
I wonder if we can still get it. There's still time to do it. I still imagine while my other half's away, I just do the room.
The whole house.
Yeah, mind you, can you imagine me trying to do it? It'd be disaster. Wouldn't it be all peeling off? The roundels wouldn't be lined up. Oh, it'd be nightmare.
It's a disaster, mate. Yeah,
disaster waiting to happen. But I may have to check if that wallpaper's still available.
Even if you just do one wall, like a feature wall.
Yeah.
So I've redecorated a little bit. I think that's pretty classy. Come and have a look. What do you think?
Just one wall.
Yeah. Ta-da! What do you reckon? And just walk out.
That would go down like a lead balloon.
It would, mate. Yeah.
But I'd be happy.
Yeah. Anyway. I've not done anything Doctor Who related, mate.
You haven't?
No. The only thing that's frustrating me, though, is that I can't find the second book from Paul Hayes. You remember a couple of weeks ago I said I'd started rereading The Long Game by Paul Hayes. The other book that he did afterwards, which is called Pull to Open.
Pull to Open, yeah.
Which is the, which he went back to do the classic stuff.
That's right, from the beginning, yeah.
Yeah. I can't find that anywhere, dude. Like, I can't.
Oh, well, it's... What, you mean you've bought it and you can't find it, or you can't find it online?
I can't find it to buy it anywhere.
Oh,
which is annoying. So I checked
It's,
all the usual suspects, all the bookshops. I think Amazon was the only other retailer. So the official site that it was originally
it's
published
10
on,
Acre Fields, isn't it?
10acrefilms.com.
Yeah.
So it wasn't on there. I had a look on Amazon. It was showing as listed on Amazon, but out of stock, and I couldn't find it on any other bookshop. So I'll have to keep looking for that. Let me have a look on.
Bung them a tweet, bung them an X, and see. Because maybe because they do them in limited quantities. So they normally do like them in batches. So don't they? If one batch sells out, they'll say, "Oh, we've got another one coming." So maybe bung them a tweet and say, "Are you doing another batch?"
No, the tweet will be, "When is the next batch coming?"
Oh, no questions asked. Right. Got
Of course, yeah. And this links back to what we were saying. I've got this book. Once I finish reading it shortly, will go back on the shelf. But I know that there's a second book related to this one that I haven't got. So this one's, every time I walk in here, I just hear this little whisper like, "Where's my friend? Where's my buddy? Like my other buddy on the shelf. Where is it? You're neglecting."
Yeah.
So that's a problem.
You need to get that sorted.
Yeah. Okay. 10 Acre Films. I'll be on to them with an email full of disdain and disgust at the stock levels.
I'm trying
frankly.
to decide which book to take with me on the flight next this week. Sorry, I was going to say next week. This week.
Take the massive Target book. Do you remember that?
Shall I take? Yeah, shall I take the? I was going to take, the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
I'm just thinking physical size. You know, the making of the Target, but you know that massive hardback.
Yes, yeah, the huge one. Yeah.
So you're all elbows on the plane. Like, excuse me, sorry, I'm just turning this page. Just back up a little bit. There we go.
All elbows. Yeah, it's a good shout. I think that is the one I will take. Yeah.
Well, you've probably got. Yeah, you've got the problem that you've got is that you've got too much choice, which is actually a psychological thing that a lot of retailers fall into the trap of. Anyone that's worked in sort of online e-commerce or anything like that, or even physical retail, if you give the consumer too much choice, they end up just walking away. And it links into this whole thing with online streaming services. How many times has you opened up Netflix or Disney Plus, and before you know it, half an hour's gone by because you're just swiping through endless movies and TV shows and not settled on anything to watch because there's too much. So for you, this is a minefield. You're like, well, I've got precisely 1,300 books here. Which one do I take on the plane?
You're absolutely right, and I can so relate to that Netflix thing. It drives me mad when my partner just sits there and he scrolls through and I'm like, just pick something, because like you said, it spends about 40 minutes looking for something, and then when he does put it on, he'll watch about 20 minutes, half an hour. Oh no, this is rubbish. And he tries something else. And I'm like, oh God. I'm like, just put Blake 7 on, will you? Put something good on instead of this
Blake
rubbish. But you're right. It is so much choice on Netflix. You spend half your life actually trying to find something to watch.
Yep, that is true.
Yeah, so I could totally relate. You just reminded me, actually, bringing this all full circle back to Doctor Who magazine. When I was I was probably 12 or 13, I went on holiday with my parents. Might have been younger, actually, 10, I don't know. And my mum always laughs because they assumed I'd got this little red carrier bag, this not carrier bag, little red bag, like hand luggage with me. And they assumed I'd packed like clothes or something like that. But when we got to Spain or Greece, wherever it was we went, we opened it and it was just full of Doctor Who magazines, and my mum couldn't believe it. She's like, "Is that all you brought? A bag of Doctor Who magazines?" Like, yeah.
Oh wow.
She has no clothes, no. I was like, oh my God. She always laughs about that. But it could have been worse, mate, because my little cousin who came with us, and this is back in the day, when toys were different. My little cousin brought his toy gun.
Bloody hell.
You remember when we were kids though, we used to have, we all used to have toy guns, didn't we? Cowboy guns and stuff. And he'd put in his little cowboy gun, and of course it stopped, said, "Oh, can we just check that, different times." So he had his little toy gun, I had my bag of Doctor Who magazines, and we had a wonderful holiday. I think it was Tenerife, I think we went, somewhere like that, I can't remember. But
different times, mate.
Different times, mate.
Yeah. When you could take a gun on holiday, toy replica or otherwise.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okie dokie. I think it's time we did our review.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's dive into it.
Don't know about you, mate. Right, this week, what we got?
Yeah, so it's a Tom Baker 6-parter called The Invasion of Time.
I am here to claim my legal right. I claim the inheritance of Rassilon. I claim the presidency of the Council of Time Lords.
The president is to be shot on sight.
Reason dictates the Doctor is a traitor. Never! Reason dictates. Then reason is a liar!
The ultimate goal is victory, Doctor. We will do battle.
The transduction barrier has failed. We are being invaded.
Oh.
Ooh.
Layla there, giving it some.
Yeah.
Giving it some big time. Right, The Invasion of Time. It was first broadcast back on the 4th of February, 1978, and ran until the 11th of March. It's a 6-parter, all 25 minutes each, part of Series 15, which is quite timely as that box set is coming to us at some point in the near future.
Yeah, soon. Yeah.
It was written by David Agnew, which we know is a pseudonym for Graham Williams and Anthony Reid, directed by Gerald Blake, and stars Tom Baker, Louise Jameson, and John Leeson as the voice of K9, and then about a dozen supporting cast members. And the synopsis is thus. The Doctor returns to Gallifrey, claims his rights, and is crowned president. Soon to... excuse me, listener.
Just rewind the tape.
Yep. There we go. 1 second. Just picking my teeth up off the floor.
Just put your teeth in, yeah.
There we go. The Doctor returns to Gallifrey, claims his rights, and is crowned president. It soon turns out that he has led... Oh, my God.
What? I've never known you falter on a synopsis.
Yeah, this is the ultimate sort of
This is why
adult
I let you do the...
thing to do, like reading and talking at the same time. Teleprompter needed, obviously.
Get that teleprompter in. Come on, wheel it in.
Here we go. Synopsis is thus. The Doctor returns to Gallifrey, claims his rights, and is crowned president. It soon turns out that he has led a group of aliens called Vardans to the planet to eradicate them completely. After they are destroyed, the Sontarans take their opportunity and follow them in their invasion until they are destroyed by the Doctor. Oof.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. So, The Invasion of Time, dude. Now, this is one of those stories, listener, just to give you a bit of backstory. When Adam and I are going through our very geeky spreadsheet of every Doctor Who episode ever made, and we're going through what we want to review, what's coming up, what do we want to do next week, all that stuff. There's a few stories where they've been mentioned, of course, when we're going through the list. Right, okay, we've whittled it down to at least what Doctor we should do next week. Okay, let's do a Tom story. I'd say for the past 2 or 3 years, The Invasion of Time is one of those stories where it's been mentioned, but then this sound always follows. Ugh. Ugh. Swiftly followed by, I'm not in the mood for that, mate. However, because of that, I feel like this could be an interesting review, because typically what happens is we end up watching the story and then our views often change on things. As the years roll by, we get a little bit wiser, a bit older. Our perspective changes on things. So, The Invasion of Time, dude. Has your view changed on this? Do you feel like this is a belter of a story now? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm really intrigued. This is one of those stories that I can't second guess what you will have made of it, which I always like, because some stories I think I'm pretty sure Gary, or I know what Gary will think of this one, or there'll be bits that I can sort of tell that you'll like or dislike, but this is one that I have, this could go either way. I don't know whether you will have thought this was good or bad. So yeah, I haven't watched this for a while, so my opinion, I don't know if it's changed, because I do think the last time I watched it, I wasn't overly impressed. I have to say, I watched this 3 episodes at a time, so I watched 3 and then the next 3 over 2 nights. I think it's a really interesting story for many, many reasons. Not just the behind-the-scenes production problems, which means that it was all filmed inside a old disused hospital, I believe, or something like that. Even this, I didn't realise until last night that even the sets of the TARDIS and Gallifrey were set up inside this hospital. I always assumed it was just the, the location bits that were filmed there, but apparently no. Due to industrial action, they had to move all the sets, and all the actors stayed there, and all this stuff into this really cold hospital in December, and filmed the entire thing pretty much in there, apart from a few other little bits around Hammersmith or something. So that's interesting in itself. The story was written incredibly quickly. I believe it replaced a story that was going to go into production that didn't for some reason. So this was written in about 2 weeks, something like that, from start to finish. Because, and that's why hence the pseudonym, because the script, who was it? The Graham Williams and Anthony Reid, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
came together to write this, so that hence the David Agnew pseudonym, which I do like. Louise Jameson had said she wanted to leave, but they didn't want her to leave, so they sort of didn't really write her a leaving story with an ending. They left it right to the 11th hour and said, "Are you actually going?" She's like, "Yes, I am. I've got another job." "Oh, right. Well, we'll just put this line in then, right at the very end, saying, 'Right, I'm off.'" So that's why Leela's exit is so quick, because they were really hoping she'd change her mind right up to the to the 11th hour, but she didn't. So I think it's a really interesting story, and the actual story itself, I think, has got huge potential, actually. Watching it again these last couple of nights, it's epic in many ways. Like, on paper, it's epic. I think if you imagine this story being done now with today's budget and, and nice sets, and just the idea of the Doctor going rogue, or has he gone rogue and going in and claiming his right to the presidency, and all the stuff on Gallifrey with the pompous Time Lords and the Gallifreyans outside. I think there is so much in this that I actually love watching this again. It's just a shame that it does fall short translating from paper to screen, and also the fact it had to be written so quickly. I think the idea behind the story is brilliant. I just think, if only they'd had more time and more money, I reckon this could have been an absolute belter, mate. But that's not to say I didn't enjoy it, because actually I was surprised how much I did enjoy it. I really enjoyed it. But it just has a lot of shortcomings, and unfortunately that is down to the time and money aspect. But I think there's some really great stuff in here. I love the first couple of episodes, and I like all the stuff with the Sontarans. It's just that there are a lot of other things that sadly let it down, like the gloomy sets and the tinfoil monsters and all that sort of stuff. But I think there's a lot to love in this story, and I've got to be honest, I really enjoyed it. I was quite surprised how much I did enjoy it, to be honest, over the last couple of nights. So it's getting a thumbs up from me. Quite surprised on this one. But this is where it comes to the point where I am over to you now, because I'm dying to know. I don't think you are going to be anywhere near as enthusiastic as me over this, but I could be wrong. So, over to you.
Right. Dude, I struggle with this one, I'll be honest with you.
I thought you were. Oh, no.
I struggle with this one. However, I do think... Now, when in previous reviews, when we've said, I struggle with this one or whatever, it's typically down to some big story mechanism. Like the story just doesn't quite... either the story doesn't fit very well, or it struggles to get out of third gear or something like that.
Yeah.
And, and it just sort of distracts you from enjoying it properly, and it just doesn't work as you'd hoped. With this one, it's not that at all. The reason why I struggle with it is not because it's poorly written as such. It's not brilliant, but it's not poorly written. And yes, the 6 parts, when you binge it 3 and 3 or all 6 or whatever, however you watch it, it does have a bit of ploddiness in there, and it does pad a little bit, of course. I'll get this out of the way early. My biggest hang up with this story is how the Time Lords are written and how Gallifrey was written.
Right.
Never before have I put my face in my hands at the end of a Doctor Who episode, Classic Who, and thought, I just can't believe I'm watching this.
Really?
Yeah. And it's got nothing to do with the principal cast and the performances and stuff. The Time Lords on Gallifrey in this story they come across like the biggest bunch of buffoons and idiots that you've.
Twits, yeah.
I can't believe it. When I first watched this many moons ago, and it was many moons ago, I'm talking like 5 or 6 years, I think, the last time I watched it. That didn't strike me back then. I just thought, oh, okay, that's the way. That's just the way that they've been written by this particular pair of writers and whatnot, and the way it was produced. But having rewatched it now, that's the biggest thing that I cannot get over, dude. It's like Benny Hill came in and said, "I'll write this lot. You write the rest of it. You do the whole, you do the whole science fiction stuff and the Doctor and all the aliens and the struggle with Leela. You go and do that. I'll write the Time Lord bit." And so you end up with this carry-on film that's embedded within this Doctor Who episode or story. And mate, honestly, I think after episode 4, I had my face in my hands, and I was like, okay, the rest of it is not as terrible as I remember, but I cannot get past this, mate. I don't want to dwell on it too much because it will just be a massive negative thing. But all I'll say is the Time Lords in this are just ridiculous. There's only one dude who was actually that held any sort of legitimate sort of, what's the word? Barusa, played by John Arnott.
Yes.
Chancellor Barusa. He was the only one that had any kind of sort of regalness to him, and came across as like knew what he was doing, wasn't putting up with any BS from any invading aliens or any infighting or anything like that. He knew the crack. And there was even a time where he stood up to the Doctor a couple of times. The Doctor's sort of, they were kind of, these two have a sort of interesting relationship, don't they? The Doctor and Barusa. It's like, it sounds to me like back in the day, Barusa sort of took the Doctor under his wing a little bit, and and they used to have some history and stuff. And there's even a point in the story where Barusa says like, oh, the master has learnt from the student, sort of thing. So those two had a good relationship, and Barusa's actually a cool character. All the other Time Lords, mate, I just thought, what the bloody hell is going on? As an example, there's a scene where there are some of the Time Lord guards, in the ridiculous red outfits with the helmets and stuff. They're walking down this very, very thin corridor. The corridors are very thin in this.
They are.
And they've been given strict instructions, right? The Doctor's on the loose and is to be captured at all costs. No exception. We don't want him killed. He needs to be taken alive, but he has to be apprehended and captured. Right? Crystal clear. Gotcha. Cut to the next scene, and you have 6 of these guards who are walking down the corridor, and then the Doctor starts walking towards them, Barusa behind him, and just breezes past them. They make no effort to stop him, to quiz him, even though they've just been told very clearly to capture the Doctor. He just walks in between the 2 rows of them. There's 3 on each side of the corridor, and even mocks them in a way. He's like, good morning or good afternoon, gentlemen, whatever, just off to do this. And that's it. And then the Doctor walks off with Barusa, and then the guy who's the lead bodyguard dude that ends up with Leela at the end. What was his name? Was it Nesbin?
And Andred or
Oh,
something.
Andred. Oh, of course, yeah, Andred. He then walks down the same corridor and says to them, "So what's the situation? Where's the Doctor? Told you to capture him." And one of them just turns around to him and says, "Oh, well, he's just gone down there." And that's when I paused it. And my wife's like, "What's the matter?" And I'm like, I honestly don't know if I can continue watching this at the minute. I think I just need to go and make a cup of tea, read something, watch something, and come back to it. And then there's the whole thing with Castellan, Milton Johns,
Milton Johns.
Yeah, who was cast primarily as a comedy actor throughout the 60s and 70s. He can't keep a straight face when he's delivering any lines.
I loved him. I knew you weren't going to like him. I loved Milton Johns in this.
Yeah.
Especially when he was being thrown around and knocked into tables. I was like, oh no.
Oh, you mean like every 5 seconds?
He just plays that weedy little... He plays that so well, I thought. But I had a feeling you wouldn't like him. But I don't know. He just made me laugh in it. Because he always used to play those sort of characters, didn't he? He always plays these sort of slimy, creepy sort of characters in a lot of things he was in back in the day. You know, he's normally like... If he's in the Sweeney, he'll be the guy that's snitching on the gang. You know, he always played that sort of role, didn't he? But,
yeah, but that's
I had a feeling you wouldn't like him.
Yeah, but that's the point I'm
I
making.
thought he was funny. Yeah.
You think he's funny, and in a way he is. He's not trying to be like overly comical, but the takeaway from that character is he's funny, and that's the point I'm making. Like, the Time Lords are being invaded. That's it. Like, the Centaurans are on the approach. You know, they are being invaded, and yet this guy's carrying on, literally like a carry-on film. And there's there's one scene where the Centaurans are getting all, you know, they're getting a bit miffed. The plan's not going exactly to plan. They suspect of the Doctor. Castellan's kind of playing the turncoat. He's like, "Look, not being funny, guys, but not sure if you've noticed, but the Doctor's acting a bit weird. I don't trust him." You know, and then they start losing their rag with him. Like you said, they push him over. They push him into a table. He gets back up. Yeah. He says something else. They shove him over on the floor again.
Do it again.
Yeah, again and again. And then while that's going on, you've got all these bumbling Gallifreyan guards walking around, getting shot by... It's a mess, man. The whole... If I could just pluck the Time Lord bit out of it and set this on another planet, just a random, you know, series of people who are being invaded and the Doctor's there to help, no issue. Would have been a great story. But the Time Lords... these are the people who are meant to be way superior in terms of their technology and all the advancements and all this stuff. And honestly, mate, to me at least, they come across as like how the bloody hell have you not been invaded up until now?
Yeah.
Like, if this is your standard of how you manage the Time Lords in general and Gallifrey and all that sort of stuff, you should have been toppled, you know, generations ago. You guys are done. Like, how the hell you've not fallen at this point is beyond me. So I'm getting it out the way, dude.
Yeah, get off your chest.
That for me has knocked a massive amount of points off the score. The rest of it,
I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Because I think you said, like, you know, when an episode gets stuck in one gear, maybe in some ways this one has too many gears because it is tonally quite all over the place. And I think there was criticism from like someone in the BBC, like the head of drama or something, said to Graham Williams, like, I've watched it and, you know, it's too comedic, it takes away the threat. And I'm thinking, yeah, I kind of get that. Maybe I was just in the mood for it because I was kind of going along with it. And I do agree with you to an extent about the Time Lords. They are very pompous and they just come across as like an old men's club, you know. There's only one woman Time Lord in it, isn't it? And actually she's quite good, I thought, Roden. She's got a bit of fire to her. I thought she was pretty good. But the rest of them, yeah, I liked Barusa. I loved the relationship between him and the Doctor because it almost feels like the doctor's having fun winding him up, a bit like if, because he was obviously his teacher, he's sort of having a bit of fun getting his own back on him. And I just thought their relationship was quite fun. I do get what you mean about Castellan Kellner, Milton Johns. I do get what you're saying, but I think I just like him as an actor. So I just enjoyed his performance. But the rest of them, mate, yeah, they just sort of bumble around and, oh, isn't this awful? And all this. It's all terribly sort of old fashioned. And, but I did have to laugh when Barusa sat around the swimming pool with his curly straw cocktail. I mean, that was great.
Oh, he's loving life at that point.
He's loving life at that point. But no, I get what you mean. They are not the Time Lord race that we sort of have known, come to know.
That wasn't the worst bit, though, for me. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh.
There was one scene, dude, that was the nail in the coffin.
Let me see if I can guess what it is.
Go on in.
A scene with the Time Lords, I assume, is it?
It is with one of the Time Lords, yes.
One of the Time Lords. Is it when the old chap's being escorted out?
Nope.
Being thrown out into the wilderness?
Nope.
No? Go on then, what is it?
Imagine, I'll set the scene very quickly. The Doctor has noted that since Rassilon and all that stuff that went on with him, fast forward to now, he's now the president. Yeah. And there are 4 things that are extremely valuable and powerful. He's got 3 of them. He's got the sash that goes over his head that hangs down.
Yes.
He's got the scepter or the cane, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And he's got the crown. So he's got 3 out of the 4.
He's got the key.
So he's in some office. Where is he? I can't remember where he is. I think he's in Barusa's office or something. Mm-hmm. And he's basically saying, right, the only other thing that I need is the key. The all-powerful key. And while this conversation is happening, behind him on the wall is a pin-up board and about 20 keys. Now, the all-powerful key of Rassilon, the key of power, the key of time, whatever it's called. How long would it take you to try 20 keys before you thought, I've got the one?
Yeah,
chances are you probably wouldn't even get through 19 before you got to the last one. Chances are you'd probably try 5 or 6 in terms of the laws of probability. You'd probably go through 5, 6, maybe 8 keys and then you've got it. So how much effort would it have taken anybody, not just the Doctor, but anybody, to just think, right, okay, the key of Rassilon, there's a wall there with loads of keys on it. I'm going to try each one. Key number 4. There you go. Mm-hmm. There's your all-powerful key. They're having this conversation with all the keys on the wall. And then to make matters worse, Barusa starts to introduce, this pin the tail on the donkey. Well, Doctor, why don't you have a guess, eh? Why don't you see which key it could be? A bit like a Bruce Forsyth old game show. And then he has one guess, and then Barusa's like, I'm bored of this game now. Here you go. Here's the key. Funnily enough, it looks different to all the other keys that are hanging on the wall. Mm. So again, at that point, I pause it and walk out. And my wife's like, you've got to finish this. I'm like, I don't...
That wasn't even the key, though.
Well, that's the thing.
He throws that away.
Yeah.
It's hidden in a...
Of course.
It's just hidden in a... Well, like under a table, wasn't it, or something?
It's in a drawer.
Oh, right, yes, it's in a drawer. Yeah, it's like, oh, all right, you're not. I haven't fooled you, so here it is. It was in this drawer.
That's what I was coming on to. The Doctor's like, right, I've got the key. I've got the key. You fooled me for one round of the game show, but I've got it. And then instead of just leaving it there, there's the weird desk pod thing. There's only one drawer. So if you're going to look for something, like anyone that owns their own home, or if you're renting, if you're an adult, got your own place, we all know that there's a tat drawer. There's a drawer that you just lob all the old batteries in, all the instruction manuals for things you no longer own, cable ties, and keys. Old keys. So this guy's got one drawer, and in it, funnily enough, is the key, the real key.
The key.
So, mate, at that point, my wife's like, "Look, you've got to stop pausing. Otherwise, you're going to be here all night." So, mate, that's the kind of thing that I was dealing with. It was a real mental struggle to finish this 6-parter.
See,
I'm not even joking.
I get what you're saying. No, I know. I get what you're saying. I mean, I must admit, maybe I was just in a more. I just went with it. I was just like, because I did have to laugh at that scene because I was like, so he's like, no one has held this key for a millennia or something like that, and I'm like, but it was just in a drawer. Like he didn't even go and get it out of a special casket or box or like hidden in the wall or anything. It was just hidden in a drawer
In the tat drawer. Yeah.
Yeah, in a tat drawer, yeah. I do get what you mean. But what I was going to say was, were they like this in... I don't remember the Time Lords being like this in The Deadly Assassin, which is not that far before this story, is it? Previous season? I can't remember now. I don't remember them being quite... I mean, they were a bit pompous in that, I remember, but they weren't sort of as irritating in The Deadly Assassin, were they? You know, it feels that Gallifrey feels a bit different to this Gallifrey. Let's put it that way. Even though the sets look quite similar, I think. But
yeah.
They weren't quite as bumbling in that, were they?
No, they weren't. Yeah, like you said, they were.
I don't remember them being like that.
No, not at all, mate. They were pompous to a degree, and which is fine. You know, if you're gonna, because they do have that sort of air about them. Which makes the story of why the Doctor ran away in the first place so compelling. He wanted to rebel against all that stuff and do his own thing, and which is why he stole the TARDIS and ran off. So that makes sense for them to be written that way. But I don't remember them being so. The thing with this story is that they were written to be just oafs and idiots and buffoons, and so they weren't like it in The Deadly Assassin. Not like this at all.
Well, at what point did this start to lose you though? Because so for me, I put it on thinking, I remembered sort of thinking it started good and then completely went off the boil. So I put it on and I'm watching it and I'm like, first 2 episodes in, I thought, actually, this is good. I love all this stuff with like the Doctor going mad and shouting and ordering these Time Lords around and what the hell's going on? Like, because there is a good mystery surrounding why is the Doctor like gone rogue? Like he's gone off the boil. So I was quite into the first sort of 2 episodes. In fact, maybe the first 3 I thought were pretty cool. But then I think episode 4, when the tinsel people and stuff turn up, it starts to lose it. And then, surprisingly, episode 6 has an awful lot of padding. It's mostly just walking around the, in brackets, TARDIS, which is like some sort of hospital. I don't know, it just doesn't feel like the TARDIS at all. It's a really odd decision to try and say that it's the TARDIS interior. But anyway, at what point did this story lose you? Because I was going along with it for the majority, I would say, despite the stuff that I do agree with you on, that you're saying. I was quite sort of into it for the most part. But at what point did this lose you then? Quite early on, or did you like the stuff at the start?
I did. I really liked the first couple of episodes. Again, Time Lord stuff taken out of it. I really liked how the Doctor's playing up and really going for it. Like when he first arrives on Gallifrey, there's no messing about. He's very shouty. That cool Tom Baker sort of vibe when he's in the zone. He's determined, he's on a mission, and he gets really, really short with some of them and shouts at a lot of them and gets that stuff done. And then later on you find out why, because the Vardens are sort of reading his thoughts and he doesn't want to give the game up at all. And it's not until he speaks to Barusa later in the room, because he at the point where he starts to insist that his chambers are all decorated a certain way and all that stuff, you think, is he just sort of playing up to this and being weird? And then you find out later on that the materials that he chose, like, was lead. It's a bit like a Superman.
The lead walls,
stopping. It's like Lex Luthor stopping Superman being able to use his X-ray vision to see through, lead and stuff like that. It's that kind of thing. You think, right, that's all clever stuff. So those first couple of episodes when the Doctor's playing up to that, and Leela's like got unwavering sort of trust in the Doctor, even though he's playing up to it very well and insists that she's banished and all that stuff. We're kind of, as the viewer, we're kind of in the same seat as Leela. It's like, well, the Doctor can't really be. He can't have sort of turned into this, tyrant sort of thing and has gone nuts. He must be under some sort of pressure, whatever. So those first two were very cool. It's not until we get sort of halfway through episode 3, I think, that it starts to get a little bit sort of ploddy, just a bit. The only bit that sort of, because in part 3 to me it was like a lot of the Vardens want this done, the Doctor goes off to do it, but then he's also trying to drop a little hint here and there to Barusa and so on, and then Castellan starts to get a bit thinky and stuff. That stuff you see again and again throughout the next few episodes. It gets a little bit ploddy. The only thing in part 3 that provides a little bit of a distraction from that main story is when Leela goes out and she wanders into the Outsiders tribe and all that stuff, and their leader, what's his name? That is Nesbin, the leader of the Outsiders, that tribe.
Gallifreyans.
Yeah, there's a little bit of sort of backups there, and he doesn't like the fact that someone from within the Citadel and stuff has come out to those guys. And then she learns that a lot of people have been banished, and that's how they live now, just outside and hunting and doing their own thing. So that provided a little bit of when Leader and Roden are out exploring, they run into those guys. That was kind of cool. And then when you go back to part 4, that's when it really starts to plod. It really plods on a lot. And then, and then towards the end when the Centaurans start doing their thing, and so sort of part 5, when the Centaurans turn up, you think, okay, it's going to get a bit tasty, but they're not. I can imagine back
in the day when watching this going out live in 1978. I would imagine the Centaurans turning up was quite exciting. I was thinking, imagine being, because the story is kind of wrapping up. Like you said, it started to go a little bit round in circles. So throwing them in, so late in the story does give it a little bit of a, much needed injection, doesn't it? It does sort of take it up a different gear. But I have to say, they don't really do a lot. So I was quite excited. I thought, oh yeah, cool. Okay, like you, I was enjoying it more than you, but I was starting to get a little bit fed up of the Vardens just shimmering around. So I was quite excited when the Sontaran stood up. I thought, oh yeah, I think it gets good again now. But actually it didn't get as good as I thought, because they I don't know, they don't really again, it's maybe they're just a little bit too comedic. Like, I found them quite funny rather than threatening. Like, they were getting so cross with everything and stomping around, and yeah, that's true. So I think it needed them in it to definitely sustain the 6 episodes. It definitely helps, but again, there's just a lot more walking around corridors and shouting, isn't it? So it's a little bit much by that point, I guess.
The other thing about the Centaurans as well, and it's not their best story, let's be honest.
No, it's not.
There's a lot of talking and not much doing from those guys, if that makes sense. So there's quite a few scenes where they're either shouting at Castellan or they're shouting at the Doctor or whatever, and they're trying to come across as very threatening. But other than a couple of scenes where they have a scrap with some of the Time Lord guards in the corridor, and then another one out in the main sort of chamber where the TARDIS has landed. Other than that, they just shout a lot, and they tell you what they're going to do, and they warn and threaten about what's coming and what's going to happen, but just not much action. If that, it's like it's like you've got big talk. You've managed to sort of get through to finally land on Gallifrey, because the Doctor disables the force field, doesn't he? Even though he knows it's a massive risk, he knows it's the only way to carry on sort of the trust between him and the Vardens, and then eventually the Centaurans and stuff. So they finally landed. Go time, we're on Gallifrey. It's time to kick this plan into gear. But no, it's just a lot of walking around and shouting, and
And why do they all sound like they've got laryngitis? Because am I going mad, mate? The Sontarans don't normally speak. There's a bit where he goes, stop, and they go, like the doctor can't hear him because he's lost his voice. But am I going mad, mate? The Sontarans don't know. That's the Sea Devil. That's the Sea Devils and who's the other ones? The Ice Warriors. They whisper like that. But am I going mad? Sontarans don't normally speak like that, do they? Or do they?
There's I think that it was just sort of directed that way. I think for sort of effect to sort of come across.
But it made me think. I was like,
really,
of the previous Sontarans whispered. I honestly can't remember now. I know it sounds crazy, but I just can't remember them talking like that before.
Well, they always altered the voice, obviously, in the previous stories. But they never put on this sort of theatrical. Even when they're delivering the simplest of lines, Castellan's like, I've got this thought about something. And who's the main dude? Is it Commander Storr?
Storr, yeah.
He's like, what is it? And you think, oh, bloody hell, mate, come on. So Castellan starts doing his thing. He gets a backhander, of course. And then...
Yeah.
And then somebody else comes in. There's obviously another problem. They can't find the doctor or whatever. Okay. Let's go and find the doctor. And we'll finish this once and for all. So then you think, right, cool, it's getting tasty. And then it's like, nah, not really. So Sontarans, dude, not their best outing. Which is a shame, because you would have thought, like in some other Sontaran stories, the most that they've travelled and managed to get anywhere was like a cave, in the Yorkshire Dales somewhere. And from there, they're going to plot like this big scheme and stuff like that. And you think, okay, this is fairly cool. These guys have got their entire ship and they've got the Sontaran fleet out in orbit, ready to rock and roll. And you think, right, okay, this is it. This is it for the Time Lord. See you later. But no. It's more just sort of bumbling around, talking weird. So, mate, I really hate to speak ill of, past contributors and TV making. I know it's difficult. I appreciate that. Making a TV show, any kind of TV show is bloody hard work. And to maintain a kind of style to it and sort of a creative vision that you've got and stuff. But I've got to say, mate, Gerald Blake as the director, very, very static. Just... Even the bits where they're outside in the with the outsiders and stuff, out on the sand dunes and all that stuff. The camera's just in one place and it's just watching them climb up a little sand dune and stuff. And, there's not much going on. So Graham Williams and Anthony Reid, just not on point at all. And then Gerald Blake as director, like those two combined, or those three people combined, should I say. Not great at all, mate.
I noticed that Tom, there's a lot of Tom's ad-libs in this. I think Graham, looking at the documentary on it, Gerald Blake, I think, was a very relaxed, easygoing director, and therefore Tom got away with a lot more than he did with other directors in terms of the ad-libs and stuff. So like the bit with him turning to camera and saying, even the sonic screwdriver won't get me out of this one or whatever. And there's a few bits like that where you can tell that's Tom's put that line in, definitely. So I think a lot of the comedic stuff and perhaps performance, Gerald Blake has just had a very quite relaxed relaxed way of doing it, if you like, as the director. But yeah, I was going to say, what was I going to say about Tom? What were you saying before that? I was going to.
So Tom.
Oh, there's the Sontarans. Yeah, the Sontarans. So I think when it came to directing them, they do feel different to me, because if you think of like Lynx in the Time Warrior, he's such a cool. He feels quite. Scary, doesn't he, Lynx? And also he's got the best head. What happened to the Sontaran heads? Like Lynx, in the Time Warrior, the John Pertwee story, when he takes off his helmet, that is the best Sontaran head. That looks proper gross. I mean, it looks like a giant potato, but it looks great. What happened since then? Because they're so rubbery after that, aren't they? Like I had to laugh. You could see that poor old who was under Storr's costume in this. Sorry, who was playing Storr? Derek Deadman. Poor chap. I mean, he keeps his helmet on for most of the time, but you can tell that they haven't bothered to put the mask on properly under the helmet for a lot of the shots because the eyes is just like you can see the mask around his eyes. So I guess there was no point sealing it to his face if you can hardly see it. But when he does finally take it off, he's got like these big old eyebrows and stuff. I don't know. He just doesn't look as scary as like Lynx or as sort of horrific as Lynx or imposing as Lynx. But so he's kind of he's got to try and find a performance through that costume as well. But yeah, not their best. I will agree, not the Sontaran's best outing. But I'm glad they were in it though, because it certainly needed something for those last two episodes. I always find, I mentioned the TARDIS interior as well, I always find that so odd. Like, I know that they had to film in this hospital and they had to make use of what they had, but it does not feel like the TARDIS, does it? It's like an old I don't know, it just feels too, it's just an old brick building. It doesn't feel like the TARDIS interior, and it almost feels, I was going to say too vast. That doesn't make sense because the TARDIS is vast. But you know, it just doesn't. Just putting the TARDIS sound effect over every room in that building does not make it feel like the TARDIS to me. I don't know about you. And there's an odd scene where they find a load of artwork. I didn't get what that scene was about. And then slowly back away and the artwork disappears. I don't know what that. I didn't get what that was about. But yeah, it's an odd choice, the TARDIS interior, isn't it, mate? It just, does it, no, I was going to say, does it work for you? I very much doubt it, considering nothing in this episode I don't think worked for you, but it's odd, isn't it?
It is a bit weird. An odd choice. And still no one's cleaning it either. It looks absolutely dreadful, mate.
What, the set? The actual set itself? Yes, I know.
It's got to that point.
Those roundels are thick with dust.
Yeah. Whereabouts in season 15 is this story?
I think it's the last story.
Because it's Ribos after, isn't it? In 6. Yeah. So I think by this point, so many actors and crew and everyone had just walked over it and scuffed because it's difficult because it's a white floor and it's a very light set, as we know. So after many, many weeks and months of people just, moving the center console around and doing little bits and bobs and just walking through it generally, I guess at this point, and it's like, wow, that needs a bit of a clean, that. And unfortunately, a lot of it takes place down at K9's level. So you see the floor pretty much all the time and stuff. And it's lit weird as well. It hasn't got this usual, which, I don't know, it's like a lot of classic Who, the TARDIS interior is lit very brightly a lot of the time, isn't it? But even this, they've changed that a little bit. It's a bit dimmer, and
that's probably because they, as I said, they would have had to have set the TARDIS set up in the hospital, so they probably only had a couple of lights. They probably just had a light at each end lighting it rather than the whole studio that they would have had before. That's probably why it looks different. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, no, I get that. So because of that reason, though, it just looks off. When you compare it to other stories in the same series and stuff.
Is there a line thrown in something about? Because I kept thinking, well, I think they do say something like it'll be stuck in that formation until the Doctor whatever. And I thought, is that why it's supposed to look weird? I don't know if I'm just trying to justify why the interior, when they start going for all the different rooms, like there's a bit where they're hiding behind sort of these curtains and stuff, and I'm like, is this supposed to be the TARDIS? And I mean, I'm glad we get to see the TARDIS swimming pool. I think that's cool. Love the bit where the Sontaran jumps over it and nearly falls in.
Oh, he does.
Yeah. Love the fact that they're just like, have we got time for another take? No, it's fine. So I love the TARDIS swimming pool, but it's the other rooms that I just feel like don't fit. And there's a weird bit where the Doctor's talking to like this big, it looks like Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors. And a Sontaran gets eaten by it. Again, this all feels just like lots of padding, and it's all in the last episode, which is normally is when stuff is wrapping up and getting good again, But to me, episode 6 felt like there's a lot of padding like that. So he gets swallowed, and then he gets set free, and But that's weird, you know.
Yeah, I think that's just some, like with the giant plant thing that tries to eat the Sansaran and stuff.
Now, what was your reaction when you saw that? Did you?
Well,
were you pausing and switching off and going getting another drink, or
no? I'd kind of conceded defeat at that point. It was just like, right, let's just go with it. But I think as cheesy and corny as that looked on screen, it's just one of those mechanisms, isn't it, where it's like, okay, we need something here. There's no other. We've written this sequence of scenes that there are no other guards around or anything like that, so something has to this poor Sansaran has to have something happen to him instead of just drowning him in the pool, which would have been a bit dark. It's like, let's just have a giant plant eat him, because at the end of the day we are on an alien planet after all, which is ironic because even though the Time Lords refer to people like Leela as aliens, from our perspective watching it is an alien planet, so you'd expect to see like the odd little quirky thing like that. So yeah, it's a little shop of horrors, but I think that's part of the kind of weirdness with this episode, and that you find with a lot of classic Who stories, is that probably on paper it would have been a very cool scene, when they're going through and they've written the scene and some of the dialogue and stuff, and then in the script it's probably like, cut to Santaran being consumed by deadly alien looking plant thing, whatever. So when you're reading a script, it's probably like, oh cool, that's going to be good. And then like a lot of things with this episode where they use the same corridor 95,000 times, all the stuff that you see in the script unfortunately doesn't translate well in this one to screen. So you just kind of, like I said, at this point in the story, I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever.
I just thought it was an odd scene. I think Tom Baker wanted that as the new companion. Because he was, with Louise James leaving, he did actually seriously want either a cabbage or a parrot as the next companion, so he could basically just talk to himself, which is what I think Tom was trying to do in this a lot. I don't know, because Tom's not on the making of on this story, so I don't know. But we know that Tom said he doesn't need a companion at this point. He can just talk to the audience. So that's what I mean about an ad-libbing and breaking the fourth wall a few times in this story. I think Tom was sort of testing out, saying, look, see, it works. I can just talk to this plant. I don't need an assistant. I can just have a cabbage on my shoulder. And which is honestly what he wanted. Louise Jameson says it in the making of. She's like, Tom seriously wanted a cabbage as the companion, or a parrot. He said, either of those would be fine. And I think Tom's trying to show that in this story, in its performance. Like, I don't need a companion. Look, I can carry this on my own. So I think that's why there's a lot of fourth wall breaking and stuff in this one. I'm glad in a way he didn't get his way, as much as it would have been hilarious to see the Doctor with a parrot or cabbage companion every week. I also feel Tom Baker might have got a bit cross with a parrot after a while, because you look at some of the outtakes of him with K9 where he completely loses his rag with the prop. I can't imagine him working with a parrot for very long without strangling it, to be honest.
No, I wouldn't have thought so,
without
mate.
Completely losing his
No, I read you, dude. It's and Tom does this really, you can't obviously miss it, the final scene where the camera pans down and you see K9 Mark II. And then Tom looks dead in the camera at us, and has got that big beaming smile and so on. If there was ever a time where you notice anyone breaking the fourth wall, that's the king, isn't it? Really, one of those type of scenes. It's so weird because you think to yourself, what was the motivation for doing that? Because whenever they do that, it's kind of, my mind works differently to most others, but I often think to myself, when they were filming this, was that written in the script, or did Tom just decide, said to the director, look, once you've panned down to the box and stuff, I'm going to do this thing where I sort of look into the camera with a nice smile. It's going to be a nice little treat for the viewer, sort of thing. I often think to myself, what was the decision to break the fourth wall? What was the motivation for doing that? And in this story, I can't. Maybe it was just like an end of series little quirky little thing.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Do you reckon as well?
I think it was just. Yeah, I think it's just end of season, so just the Doctor looks up and laughs. And I talking to decisions, I thought it was odd to write K9 out, but then just immediately bring in Mark II. I thought, what was? I don't quite get the reason behind that. Talking to K9, actually, I think it's a good story for him. He actually gets stuff to do. He gets well stuck in this story for a change. The only thing is he's so blimmin' noisy. Like, I haven't noticed it as bad as this before, where the actors are really having to sort of talk loudly to get over the motor sound. But yeah, he's really noisy in this, isn't he? The prop is even the ears are making a lot of noise. But yeah, I think K9 gets a lot to do, doesn't he? He gets to go out and blow some stuff up and shoot people, and he gets to control TARDIS. And he gets to be made sort of a honorary president. The Doctor puts the sash and the crown on him and tells him not to get ideas. So I think it's a good story for K9, because normally, let's be fair, they can't think of anything for him to do, because he's quite difficult to use the prop or utilize it well. So he normally gets to stay in the TARDIS or stay in a room or blown up or has his head knocked off. But at least in this one, he got a few scenes where he got well stuck into the action, didn't he, K9, I thought? He
did, yeah. And I'll tell you what, mate, this was a belter of a story for K9.
It was a good one for him.
Yeah, that was one of the plus points for me, was K9. I think he had this... That's one thing that I will give the writers credit for, is that it wasn't one of those stories where K9's there for comedic effect, just to play off of the Doctor. It's normally Tom, isn't it? Normally in some stories, you've got Tom who's just, being a bit abusive, let's be honest, to K9 here and there. And K9, just because he's obviously not human, just brushes it off and whatever. But in this one, he has a lot of autonomy. So the Doctor's like, okay, we need to go and do this, or we need to accomplish that. K9, you're on it, sort of thing. And he just does it. He just goes on these little adventures. There's a bit where he's cruising through the one corridor, and he's stunning guards, and he's protecting Leela, and he's going off, and like you said, he gets to be president for a little bit. And so yeah, for me, I thought K9 had a really good story. It was just the loudness of the prop, like you said. There's a bit it's just unavoidable, I suppose, back in the day. But yeah, well,
apparently that is the reason. It seems odd to me, but so they had I don't think it was a different prop, but he was being upgraded for the next series. I don't know, we're going to put a new motor in him, or maybe it was a new prop, I don't know. So there was going to be alterations to K9 to make the prop better, hence why it's K9 Mark II. But I don't think that, I don't know, it doesn't, to translate that onto screen with the Doctor replacing him with Mark II, I don't think the audience would have really noticed that much back then, if you know what I mean. It doesn't seem enough to justify writing K9 out of the story and then bringing in K9 Mark II. But having said that, I suppose it's quite nice that he stays behind with Leela. I guess actually thinking about it, I quite like that, because at least she's got K9 with her. Should we quickly talk about Leela's exit? Because as I explained earlier in the podcast, we know the reasons why it's so abrupt, but as a viewer back then, you wouldn't have known any of the behind the scenes stuff. So it would just seem so out of the blue. And it is just I hate to say it, pretty terrible exit for Louise. Because why would she fall in love with that guy? It just is such a, I'm sure, I know they were up against it writing this in 2 weeks, but I'm sure they could have thought of a better way for her to go. I know she wanted the character killed off, but Graham Williams and Anthony Reid did not want to kill off the character, and I'm certainly very glad they didn't kill off Leela personally. But I don't know, her falling in love with Andred just seems absolutely out of nowhere. I don't buy it at all, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay. Actually, Leela was pretty good in this story, actually, just to speak about her performance.
Oh, yeah, always great. Love Louise Jameson.
Yeah, I thought she was pretty good in this one, purely because she wasn't, again, to give the writers credit, they didn't just have her follow the Doctor around and, be sort of the muscle, quote unquote, whenever there was any fight scenes or anything like that. A couple of really cool places where she took down, when she throws the knife into the Centauri.
Into the vent.
Yeah, really cool, stuff. That sort of stuff. And when she's doing the bow and arrow training with with the outsiders and stuff. Some really cool. So I think for that reason alone, because she wasn't just stuck to the Doctor's side the whole time, she had a bit of independence. She had to go off and do stuff. Even though she was seemingly banished by the Doctor, she never lost faith that the Doctor was actually the good guy still, and this was part of his wider plan and all the rest of it. So yeah, I think her performance overall was actually really, really good. I really liked her performance, but the ending, her exit from the show, it does seem a little bit sudden, because when you think about it's almost a contradiction in terms, because if you think about all of the times throughout the story across all of the 6 parts where she's standing up for the Doctor and she's always praising how great he is and how he's probably got a plan and everything's going to be fine, it's kind of weird that when you get to the end of it, even though she said all of that stuff, she's just like, oh, by the way, I'm out of here.
Yeah, it does.
Do you know what I mean? So it's almost like she's kind of built the Doctor up and their relationship and how much faith she's got on him and how cool everything is with the Doctor, to then only sort of say goodbye at the end. So it's kind of weird, kind of a little contradiction in terms in that respect, but also felt a little bit unbelievable in a way, because her and Andred hadn't really spent that much time together.
No.
When you think about it, they had a couple of nice little scenes as we start to get through the end of the story, but not enough that you would think, oh wow, these two are sort of falling in love with each other or whatever. So that's not a terrible thing, by the way. That's kind of a nice feel good sort of thing, I guess, for Leela.
But it just doesn't suit her character. I would have found it more believable if she'd have said, I want to stay behind with the, like the Gallifreyan warriors, because I want to help them. I want to help show them that they can actually be part of this society. And I don't know, that's sort of more the thing Leela would do. But to have her just fall in love with Andrew out of nowhere, it just, doesn't sit right. I will say, I do like the bit where she says to the Doctor, I'll miss you. And then he just goes in the door and then he shuts the TARDIS doors and says, I'll miss you too, Savage, behind closed doors. Like he can't say it to the companion. There is something about that I kind of like, because it's sort of typical of the Fourth Doctor and typical of the Doctor, I think. But that may be something other people don't like. I don't know. I just thought, well, that's quite cool. Like the Doctor can't say it to her, but he will. I just like the fact that we do get to see that the Doctor will actually miss her, because the Fourth Doctor and Leela relationship is an odd one, especially early on. I don't like the way the Doctor talks to Leela, and I don't like, we know that Tom and Louise didn't get on early on, and you can tell on screen. So I feel like their relationship definitely got better on and off screen as time went on. So I do like the line is in there so that we know that the Doctor actually will miss her and he doesn't just get in and not say anything. Yes,
I agree. And you make a really good point there, dude. I hadn't considered that. In terms of Leela's overall character, it does seem a bit weird that she would choose to stay behind and sort of start a relationship with somebody. She always comes across as that very sort of independent, up for a scrap kind of person, So yeah, you're right. It would make more sense for her to stay with the tribe. That seems like more her kind of vibe, rather than sort of the posh.
I would have loved it
if we'd. Yeah.
I would have loved it if we'd had a scene where the tribe were like, show us, lead us, be our leader, and they made Leela like the leader of the tribe, or I don't know, anything like that. I think would have been more in tone with her character. I think because Leela is such a strong character, and I think she's a great companion for the Doctor. I wish Tom had embraced the character more than he did, because I think we all know that Tom wasn't a fan of the character, which at the beginning also translated to having slightly negative feelings toward Louise. But yeah, I wish the character had embraced it more, because I think she's a very interesting companion, of totally different to the companions we've had before. I really do. Yeah, I really like Leela. So I just wish she had a better ending, really. But then again, we had that brilliant trailer for season 15 recently where we got to see her in the Gallifreyan robe. So they've sort of picked up from that, and you think, wow, great stuff, So like anything, it can lead on to good things.
Yes, agreed. Yeah. And just a rush job, mate, I think, to be honest with you, just the script in general.
Yeah.
it's an app you can tell a mile off. Did you say they had just a couple of weeks to put this together? I think it was, wasn't it?
I think I read that they had 2 weeks because whatever happened to the story they were going to do, it fell through. And I think they wrote this in 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So probably what's happened is Louise Jameson has basically confirmed, look, I'm out of here. So they have to write an exit story at some point. They've already agreed that killing her off is not going to be, acceptable. So in terms of trying to get the script just done and ready in those 2 weeks, the script. So I'm reading it now with 4 days of rewrites as well. So
right.
a week and a half to get the script done, and then 4 days worth of tweaking it and so on. So that's probably it is, mate. Yeah, they've decided they're definitely not going to kill the character off, which is no bad decision in a way, even though you have a lot of people that wants that to happen for their character for some reason. Harrison Ford was famous for saying, wasn't he, many times that he felt like Han Solo should be killed off in the original trilogy. He pushed for that really heavily, but was always beaten down by that. So you have quite a lot of people that say their character should be killed off. I think they they want a really sort of dramatic exit and stuff like that. Ignoring the possible paycheck in the future for coming back. Bit of an oversight
and also, and then of course when they do it, sometimes the actors aren't happy, like Matthew Waterhouse.
Oh, of course.
Very unhappy that he was killed off. So it doesn't, sometimes it goes the other way.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that about Harrison Ford, because spoilers, listeners, for the Star Wars films, he did eventually get killed off, didn't he, in the new ones? So, by his own son, Ben. But mate, so would that have been his choice? That's interesting.
Yeah. I think it was. I think he was still pushing for that.
He must have been. Yeah, he's like, I'll come back, but I've got to be killed off. All right then. Yeah. I can see him saying that, actually.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to come back, but in my opinion, we should have killed the character of many years ago. But George Lucas, is always a. Anyway, so that's my
do the Chewie we're back line. We're home. Chewie,
I'm trying to get my voice quite low because he's got very deep. Yeah, so Chewie, we're home.
That's perfect. God, it was like he's in the room.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
That's not bad. Not bad at all.
Anyway, so Leela, pretty good story. I really liked her performance. Ending a little bit wet, but what else can you do? You can't kill her off. So the alternative, in hindsight, I think you're bang on, mate. I think she should have ended up with the tribe, but there we go. Spoken about Tom. Anything else to say on Tom? I think he's definitely finding his feet as the Doctor now, in terms of being that very authoritative, assertive, taking control of scenes and with other actors and so on, and just giving you that. There wasn't much of a balance in this one. I think as we get into series 16 onwards, we find that a bit more with him. But what I mean is, to me, Tom's at his best when we have the moody, grumpy, shouty Tom as the Doctor, mixed in with that lovely smile, those little humorous moments and those little bits of comedy. When you have a good balance of those things, that's Tom at his best for me. But in this one, I felt the scale was more towards grumpy, moody Tom more than the comedic stuff. But again, I think that's just a bit of direction there and stuff. But overall, Tom's not terrible at all. He had a good one, I think.
No, I must admit, for the most part, I do like him in this. I feel like I don't know if it's so much Tom, but I do like the way the Doctor's written as. I feel like he's really having fun. he's got this job to do where he's got to boss the Time Lords around, and I think the Doctor's slightly enjoying that. It's just nice to see a slightly different Fourth Doctor, slightly more unpredictable. Like, I love all that stuff in the first two parts where we just don't know what's going on with the Doctor as he'd gone mad and stuff. And I think Tom plays that well. And, I love it when he's saying, I didn't say you could leave. And he's really shouting and all that stuff. I think for the most part, Tom's really, really good in this one.
Yes, I think so. Did you dig old Dudder's music in this one? Dudley Simpson?
I did. Not too bad. I liked it. Yeah, because it was a weird mix of. I even questioned if it was Dudley at one point, because there's a slightly more, I wouldn't say 80s. Well, maybe there's a slightly more electronic synth sound coming in, especially when the Sontarans arrive, and I really liked it. But then you get the classic Dudley wind instrument stuff, and I thought, yeah, I think he's trying some new stuff, and I like it. I did like the music in this.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, was it? There was a story, what did we review recently, where we thought the story was just way off base with the music.
It was Revenge of Sidemen.
Revenge of Sidemen, yeah. So this is more sort of back to form, really, where we have...
Definitely.
Yeah, these nice little motifs that pop up every now and then it's kind of sort of typical Dudley Simpson, sort of a little bit of synth work in there, a bit of atmospheric stuff now and then. It wasn't too bad. I quite liked it.
Yeah, I did, yeah. As I said, there was definitely a bit where the Sontarans arrived or something. There was this cool little synth track, and I thought, oh, yeah, like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thumbs
up to Dudley.
Yeah. Anything else on your list for this story, bud?
No, I don't think so. No, they pretty much covered it.
Yeah, okay. Right, scores on the doors. I think it's me to go first, I believe. So I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10.
Oh, God.
I'm going below, middle of the road. I'm going for, if it wasn't for the Time Lords and how they were written, this probably would have been a 6.5-ish, 6.5 for me. But I can't get past that, mate. How the Time Lords are written and portrayed in this story, just absolutely dreadful. Terrible portrayal of the Time Lords. So a 4 from me, dude. What about you?
4. Just before I give a score, mate, I wanted to ask you what you thought of Andred's performance as well, because I thought he was quite hammy. And no offence to Chris Tranchell, who seems a lovely chap, but I did think he was chewing the scenery a bit because, I don't know. I can't imagine he lasted long with Leela, to be honest.
Yeah, he's maybe that's another thing that makes it slightly unbelievable that she would want to end up with him, because he doesn't seem like the sort of character that's strong enough for a character like Leela.
It was his line delivery as well. Sometimes, mate, it's like, we should go in. Anyway, let's not dwell too much on that. I'm going to be slightly higher than you on this, which won't surprise you. I really enjoyed it for the most part, mate. I totally get his flaws, by the way. I do agree with a lot of what you say, but I enjoyed it. So I'm going to give it a 7.5.
7.5, nice.
Yes, I really enjoyed it. Despite all of the stuff you said, which you're totally right. I don't know. I must have just been in the mood for it because, I switched it off. You switched it off and you had your head in your hands. I switched it off and was like, oh, that was fun. I don't know. I must have just been in the mood, mate.
Yeah. Well, do you know what, dude? That's cool because when we reviewed, what was it last week? Frontier in Space.
Frontier in Space, yeah.
I ended up really liking that, and you were like,
I struggled with that one. Yeah.
So that's cool, dude.
Exactly.
I'm glad you enjoyed that, dude. Nice one. So a 7.5 from him, a 4 from me. What did our listeners think? I remembered this week to ask people for their thoughts and stuff. So over on Twitter, Chippy T says, I bet this could be remade as a modern classic. The Doctor, Leela, Gallifrey, Time Lords everywhere, Sontarans, leadline dead zones, treason, plotting, Rassilon, the whole shebang. Tighten it up and I'd make it a 2-parter. Yes, it's a bit long, but a belter, an 8.5 from me.
Whoa. Wow.
Chippy T. He's outdone you on the score, dude. Liked it more.
Yes.
Wow. 8.5. Theta Sigma says, highly underrated story and arguably one of Tom Baker's best performances. In my opinion, of course. Yes, the special effects might not be the best, but they are of their time, and put that into perspective, stand up okay. No score, but clearly likes this one.
Okay,
and lastly on Twitter, Doctor Who Home says, this must be epic. This must have been epic on broadcast. 2 parts cliffhanger sends chills down my spine. Sadly, it doesn't look as impressive as it could have been, but the story has its merits. Leela's exit isn't given nearly enough time. However, it does have a Sontaran fawning over. So 7 out of 10. It does have a Sontaran fawning over.
No Sontarans were hurt in the making of this production.
That's very true. We can probably confirm that. Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, over on Facebook, Charlie Turner says, a story of 2 halves. When the Centaurans show up, it gets interesting. Only thing is that Leela and K9's departures are quite pants. Excuse me. But hey, at least the Doctor managed to rebuild K9, so he's happy with that grin on his face at the end. In short, the worst Centauran story that is out of all of them, classic or modern. Still the worst no matter what. 5 out of 10.
5. Okay.
Jeff Waddle says, good concept that works on paper, but they didn't have the budget to transfer that to the screen, so we end up with a dull, flat story with only a few highlights. One of the most powerful races in the universe, no one has ever managed to invade their home planet, but somehow strips of tinfoil can manage it. 5 out of 10 from Jeff. We're on the same page, I think, Jeff, with that stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Martin Arnold, oh boy. It's ambitious, but it doesn't really work. Making the Doctor the bad guy, even though it's a ruse, is a risky prospect, and the story lacks what's needed to sustain it. The villains are just there to be villains. For me, it's a 6 out of 10. Okie dokie.
6, okay.
Douglas Stanford Grandy. What a name. I love
Brilliant
that name. A little too padded, as most six-parters are. It's great seeing the Doctor act all mean and evil at the beginning. As bad as the Leela departure is, what used to bother me more was why bother writing in the story that K9 stays behind, only to show the Doctor building another one? Yeah. Why didn't they just have K9 stay with the Doctor? That's a good question. 6.5 from Dougie. Andrew Stewart says, don't think I've ever watched a more boring episode of Doctor Who in my life. Tom is just atrocious. Which is why I think he's one of the most overrated Doctors. Sorry, Adam. Leela is okay, but the ending is a mess and the rest just meanders. 1 out of 10.
A 1.
Poor audience having to watch Underworld then this thing, even though I'd rather watch Underworld. Wow, Andrew, not a fan. And lastly, Alex Bobbins says, a guilty pleasure. I love the scheming and darker fourth Doctor we get in this story, predating the seventh Doctor by a decade. Leela is also great, although a romance with Roden would have made more sense, as their relationship does at least have some development. Do you know what? That's a good shout.
Yes.
That's a good shout. I can overlook the rubbish TARDIS interiors and tinfoil Vardens because the story is full of intrigue and has a second wind once the Cockney Centaurans arrive. 8 out of 10 from Alex.
Oh, an 8. Gosh.
An 8, yeah. Right then, bud. I think I'm surprised. You know, I'm surprised by a lot of these scores. I mean, we had some clangers in here. We had a 1 and a few 5s. But overall, I mean, we had an 8.5 and another 8 and then a 7 and a 6.5. So, yeah, people not hating it.
It's got to be one of the most divided set scores we've had in a very long time, isn't it?
I'd say so, bud, yeah. To go from an 8.5 to a 1, I mean, bloody hell.
Yeah.
Bloody hell, mate. The scores are just running away with themselves.
Yeah.
They're out of control.
Craziness.
Okay, the Invasion of Time. Thank you very much, you lot, for sending in your thoughts and your scores out of 10. Much appreciated, as always. Next week, we won't be recording, actually, next week, because Adam is travelling back to the US and he's going to be getting himself settled and sorted. So the week after, we'll be back and we'll let you know on the socials what story we're going to be doing that for that week, in that episode. So keep your eyes peeled to the socials for that. Before we close out the show, I just want to give you guys a reminder that and a prod to make sure that you are following and subscribing to the Big Blue Box podcast on whatever app you listen to your podcasts on. If this is the first time you're listening to the episode, to the Big Blue Box, then welcome aboard. It's great to have you here. That was episode 390. Just make sure you're following and subscribing. When Adam's back and sorted the week after next, we'll have an episode out every week. And we also put an episode out every month with our writing team called The Round Table, where we just waffle and chat about anything to do with Doctor Who. So make sure you are catching all of that stuff. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. There are links on the website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk, where you can also listen for free on there, actually. Plus you can check out the reviews and articles from the writing team. And lastly, we have a very cool free Discord server. So hop in there as well, chat Doctor Who, all sorts of subjects around Who with lots of other cool Who fans. The link is on the website. And I think on that note, dude, we'll wrap it there for episode 390.
Alrighty.
Thank you for listening to episode 390. That was another episode of the Big Blue Box podcast. Dude, we forgot to mention the Vardens, really, in the old review. That's how forgettable.
They are quite forgettable.
Exactly. Yeah. The old Vardens.
The old tinfoil Vardens. Yeah.
Strange little sound effect, which is cool though for those. The little staticky electric.
The shimmery
stuff. Yeah. The Vardens, Gotta love them. So that was
back.
Our Invasion of Time review. Like I said, no episode next week, but we'll be back the week after with another classic Doctor Who review, seeing as we've done all the others in modern Doctor Who. So also, don't forget to remember to check out my co-host channel over on YouTube. It is, of course, The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag. And has he got a new video out? I hear you cry. Yes,
Yay!
I have. Well, it will be by the time you listen to this.
Nice.
All being well. And it's a Tom Baker video. It's the 4th Doctor record collection video. So go and have a look.
Oh, that looks
more
mint.
Tom.
Yeah.
It's nice, mate. It's very nice.
Looks very cool, that. Yeah. So go and check out Adam's channel on YouTube. Tons of Doctor Who content and geekery stuff on there, and he's on the socials too, under the same name, which is The Geek's Handbag. So go and give him a little follow and have a chat about whatever you want. Doctor Who, whatever. It's all good. So until the next episode, my name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember, Aaaaaaaallons-y.